Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a teacher, a coordinator, or part of a pedagogical leadership team gearing up for your school's IB self-study, you're probably staring down a massive mountain of paperwork right now. But today, we're going to flip the script. We are going to frame your school's self-evaluation not as some tedious, bureaucratic chore, but as an exciting hero's quest of self-discovery and growth. Specifically, we're zooming in on the purpose standard within the program standards and practices. We'll unpack exactly what it means, how to evaluate your school's progress, and how to capture that real, authentic growth in your self-study questionnaire. Let's start right at the beginning with this foundational mission statement from the International Baccalaureate. This isn't just a dusty plaque hanging in a hallway somewhere. It absolutely sets the magical greater good tone for our entire educational journey. As an IB World School, this incredibly powerful mission is meant to drive learning and actually inform the development of your entire community. Recognizing our shared humanity and shared guardianship of the planet, that's the ultimate goal here. But, how do you actually measure if your school is pulling that off? Well, that is exactly what the program standards and practices are built for. Here is the agenda, serving as our map of the realm for today. We'll hit the heart of IB, the PSP framework, the 3 practices of purpose, how to actually rate your practices, and finally, assessing your overall development. Let's jump into Section 1, the heart of IB. Consider this the call to adventure. The concept of purpose is quite literally the beating heart of an IB World School. According to the official documentation, purpose is defined as a school's efforts to enact an educational philosophy that accounts for the school community's unique context and aligns with IB philosophy to make a better world. Notice that it's a deeply shared mission. It acknowledges a really crucial fact. The IB philosophy doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has to manifest within your specific local, state, national, or international context. Your school's purpose should influence the environment you build and the culture you create, which at the end of the day is what impacts the students. Moving right along to Section 2, the PSP framework, essentially our map of the realm. Take a look at how this is structured. Notice how purpose sits right at the golden peak of the framework triangle. The program standards and practices are organized into 4 big overarching categories. Here, you see that shared mission of purpose sitting pretty at the top. It is fundamentally supported by culture and environment, acting as the base. And right in the very center, embraced by all 3 of those, is the blue triangle of learning. The whole shebang is encircled by IB philosophy at the top and the school context at the bottom. The takeaway here? None of these elements can be developed without considering how the others relate to it. Purpose guides the environment you build, the culture you foster, and ultimately, the real-world learning happening in your classrooms. All right, Section 3, the 3 practices of purpose. Think of these as your 3 trials. So the crucial point to understand is that you must break purpose down to evaluate the alignment of 3 totally distinct layers of your school. First up, Practice 1 looks at the governing body and school leaders. Do they articulate a mission and strategy that truly reflect the IB philosophy, going way beyond just standard academic development? Next, Practice 2 shifts to the pedagogical leadership team. Are they articulating a shared commitment and embracing educational approaches that encourage active, compassionate, lifelong learners? And finally, Practice 3 looks at the broader school community. Is everyone actually aware of and committed to fostering internationally minded people? By breaking it down like this, the self-study forces you to hold a magnifying glass to every single level of your organization. And these 10 attributes of the IB learner profile brilliantly illustrate exactly what that 3rd practice is aiming for. When you sit down to evaluate Practice 3, you are actively hunting for evidence that your school community is dedicated to developing individuals who are inquirers, knowledgeable, thinkers, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, risk-takers, balanced, and reflective. The learner profile isn't just supposed to be a cute poster on a classroom wall. It is the tangible, breathing manifestation of your school's purpose and action. Now for Section 4, rating your practices. It's time to look into the magic mirror. Before we get into the weeds of assessing your growth, you first have to honestly answer a very simple yes or no question. Are all the baseline requirements for each practice currently in place? The IB standards have these specific, refined measures of implementation known as requirements, which can sometimes include program-specific elements. For your self-study, you just need to confirm if these fundamental building blocks are there. It's a totally straightforward binary check. If any requirement is missing, boom, your school has to add a specific action to your action plan to address it immediately. Now, if those baseline requirements are met, you then get to chart your school's evolutionary journey through 3 developmental steps. You do this using a best fit approach for each practice. Remember, the IB practices are inherently aspirational, meaning schools are expected to integrate them more explicitly over time. You'll rate your implementation as either developing, where things are, partially developed and maybe only some folks really understand it, developed, where it's generally implemented and most people are on board, or highly developed, where the practice is systematically locked in, fully integrated into all school processes, and understood by literally everyone in the community. Using this best fit descriptor really helps you capture your genuine growth and spot where you still need a bit of work. Which brings us to Section 5, Assessing Overall Development, Your Ultimate Destiny. Based on how you scored those 3 individual practices of purpose, your pedagogical leadership team is going to have to pick one of these 4 distinct descriptors. You have to choose the one that best represents your school's current reality for the overarching standard. The options are: shows notable development, shows development beyond requirements, offers opportunity for further development, or requires development. Let's break down what actually separates these categories, because it's important. It is absolutely vital to understand the nuance here between these middle 2 descriptors. Shows development beyond requirements implies you are actively excelling past the baseline. It means most or all of your practices are pushing further than just what is strictly mandated. On the flip side, offers opportunity for further development simply means you have successfully met the baseline. All those basic requirements are totally in place, but currently there is no evidence that you have developed those practices beyond the bare minimum. And hey, this isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. It just accurately highlights a very clear path for your school's future growth. Now looking at the extremes. Shows notable development is the absolute pinnacle of our journey. You only select this when most or all of the practices within the standard are categorized as highly developed, meaning you have systemic integration and total community understanding. On the complete other end of the spectrum, requires development is a red flag signaling that critical components are missing. You have to select this if there are basic, mandatory requirements that are simply not in place within the standard. If you find yourself here, don't panic. It just means you've identified a crucial gap that must be immediately added to your school's action plan. The self-study process is rigorous, for sure, but it exists for a reason, to ensure high-quality education that genuinely makes a better world. So as you gather your team to assess your standard of purpose, I want to leave you with this final thought to kind of inspire your paperwork. How does your specific community take these rubrics and turn them into a truly magical living purpose? Remember, the whole framework relies on your school's unique context to bring the IB philosophy to life. Embrace the quest, be completely honest in your evaluations, and use this process to celebrate your wins and map out your next great adventure in learning. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.